So we're going to be talking about scaling teams across cultures. We're going to be talking about how do you balance those local needs with global strategy? How do you align functions across markets? And how does growth look like in practice versus theory? Please welcome to the stage Heidrun Luitz.
Hello. Nice. Hello.
Take a seat.
Thanks for having me.
Heidrun, when I was doing the preparation, I found out that you're actually German.
I am, yes.
And I am German too, but we need to speak in English.
That's all right.
So, first of all, I think you've been in your role with Qonto for like over a year, right?
Yes, I've just had my anniversary last week.
Really?
So, you know, I can no longer say I'm
Congratulations.
new.
Happy birthday.
Exactly.
Yes, you can clap. Yeah. So, I didn't explain what Qonto does in my introduction, and I did that on purpose, because I would like you to summarize what Qonto does in a nutshell.
Okay. Love to do that. Because bottom line is, we champion entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. That's in a nutshell. How we do that is through banking and finance management for the SMEs in Europe. Reason being, Alex Pro and Steve Fanavi, who founded Qonto in 2017, so 8 years ago, they had a business before Qonto, and they sold it very successfully in 2016, and they said, listen, the one thing that really did not work for us was banking and finance management. That was a real pain point for a small business, for a startup, even for scale-ups, because at the end of the day, there is complexity everywhere you look when it comes to managing your finances. And so they very much said, listen, we were entrepreneurs, it was our pain point, we want to solve that pain point, and off we go. 8 years on, Qonto is now over 1,600 people, serving over 600,000 customers in Europe, at the moment across 8 markets, different segments, different products. Anything very much from a business account over your payments, your invoicing, your cash flow management, spend management, accounting, I mean, you name it. Anything that moves your business money is what Qonto offers.
Anybody here use Qonto? Anyone have a Qonto account? Raise your hand. We're not gonna, don't worry, we won't interview you. No.
Well, that is an excellent opportunity, I'd say.
Well, actually, first of all, I don't believe that. Secondly, opportunity for you guys to pitch yourselves. Anyway,
100%.
Heidrun, you said that you guys have, obviously 8 years old, 600,000 customers. I know you've got ambitious growth goals, right? I think you want to acquire 2 million customers, up to 2 million in the next 4 years or 5 years.
Exactly, roller skates on.
Big expansion, big growth goals. So walk us a little through your growth expansion. I know it's been quite an ambitious journey, but it's also been like rapid growth, right? If you compare last year's figures, 2024 to the year before, you grew year on year like 30%.
Yeah.
So tell us more about how you guys have grown.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about, in 8 years to go from 2 founders and an idea to over 600,000 customers, the word is rapid. So everything was rapid, from the new customer acquisition over building the problems to serve the needs of the small customer, to understanding, okay, so how do we do this across markets, what people do we need, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, and this is a really important message, I think, given the topic, everything you do later on, you have to sow the seeds in the very beginning. So Alex and Steve said from the beginning, we will be that European leader in finance management. And in order to do that, let's start from the very beginning with that vision, and that is a cross-market vision. There are 26 million SMBs in Europe, so they're the backbone of society. Let's serve them, but the only way we can serve them is by already starting from what is required when you go cross-market. And that means, for example, the business language was from day one English, with 2 French entrepreneurs. Fantastic. It was immediately thinking about, okay, how can we make this work in France as the home market, of course, but 2 years later, Italy, Spain opened. A year after that, Germany opened, right? 2 years after that, 4 extra markets, Austria, Belgium, Portugal, etc., opened. So at the end of the day, you have to already think ahead. The team they employed, we have 80 nationalities in the team. I think about 55% of us are non-French. So with that comes a lot of diversity. It comes a lot of knowledge across these various markets. What is it that SME in Spain needs versus the SME in Germany? Very different consumer landscape, very different competitor landscape, regulatory landscapes. All of these things have to be really thought through pretty much at an early stage so that there is no bad awakening later on when you actually want to make that move.
I think you already touched on some of these challenges when you're scaling across Europe, right? So you scaled to 4 markets, new markets in the last year, right? If I'm not mistaken, so 8 markets now. What would you say are, I think you said the local nuances, different regulations and stuff like that. What other challenges have you encountered when scaling across Europe and how have you maybe addressed these things?
I think what's important is when you scale across markets is that you find the right balance between what is your global structure, what are the global elements that are true across markets, and then equally, what is that balance that you need to give to the local? What we call at Qonto is glocal, so we have global and local elements, and we more or less kind of find this balance in the good old 80-20 rule. The important bit is the 80% is your global structure, right? So for example, our system, our core banking system is the same across the board. The way we think about safety, security goes across the board. But the 20% that is local, those 20% are 80% important for the local market. So do not misunderstand that the weight of the 20%. Because as I said, the 20% is, it starts always with the customer. What are their specific needs in that market? What are they facing in terms of their context and how can you now solve for that? So the local is not just, well, I'll translate a website or I'll translate a flyer. The local is very much understanding in depth what is the problem of that customer and how you can solve it. And when it comes, we are playing in fintech. The world of fintech, I have to also play in the framework of the regulator. What is important to ensure that what we are doing, we have a lot of responsibility on our shoulders moving the money of the SMB. What do we have to do to ensure those elements are in regulation and safe and secure?
And could you maybe give us an example? For example, well, you're present in, let's say, Spain, Germany. You said with this 80-20 rule. Could you have a concrete example of the differences?
Absolutely. So I think if I, well, go to my home market by birth, the German loves trust. Safety, security is really important. Yeah. There is also an element in the culture of being a bit conservative. So, you know, we know our traditional banks, we trust them. We've been with them from, you know, that small. We've had our little piggy bank going there. So, of course, I'll, you know, form my business there. However, reality is these banks in the main serve the big giants, right? So if you are a startup, it is a bit harder for you to actually get the service, get the customer service, get the pricing, et cetera, that you need. And so I really, in Germany, have to understand the digital element might be a bit scary, right? Germany is not that digitalized just yet. So I really have to educate the German consumer around the digitality, the benefit of it, whilst at the same time making sure that everything that is to offer is understood to be safe and secure. If I go to the Netherlands, we opened in the Netherlands last year, very different customer behavior. Netherlands is highly digitalized. There are lots of digital banks already out there. What is important there is the ease of use, right? That things just work like that the pricing is right, the consumer is price sensitive. So I really have to kind of dig into these nuances. And then, of course, there are local elements that are important. Local payment systems. In the Netherlands, I need ideal. Otherwise, I am not supporting the consumer for what they already have. In Germany, for example, the connection to Datev might be really important. In France, the element around accounting is super important. So really kind of understanding the context of the consumer and their pain points into play towards that.
And so that's obviously one part of scaling, but if you think about, that's customers, their expectations, and that's challenging in itself, right? Because of all the, like you say, different habits and values. But what about internally? So, you guys are going to want to keep growing. So you're going to be hiring more people. And again, like you need the right processes, you need the right systems, you need the right values. How do you get that consistency that you talked about aligned with the teams and the people that you're hiring across these markets?
I think this is super important to bear in mind. I said before, right? So, you have to sow seeds early on. So little things, as I mentioned, the business language was from day one English. Everything we do is noted down. It's in written format so that it can be easily shared. It's using technology where it's easily shareable, such as Notion or Slack, etc. Because communication is key across borders, across cultures, across different systems. When it comes to people, if I think about Qonto, when they started, it started in France. Even when the first other markets were opened, they were opened from France, right? You have to start somewhere. But when it then all of a sudden became a matter of, well, let's now open other offices in Milan, in Barcelona, in Berlin, you name it, then all of a sudden you have teams sitting in different locations. So it's not as easy as having a chat over the coffee machine or the water cooler. But you actually have to understand how you form culture. And this culture element at Qonto is incredibly important because it breaks nationality cultures that might create difference and kind of, a bit of a conflict. But actually you create a company culture that unites you. And it unites you in your North Star, your vision. It unites you in what is important in your values. So value number one for us is customer obsession. Then it goes into teamwork, which is important for cross-border. It goes into ownership. If I delegate something to a team, let's say in Barcelona, I need to trust that they are going to execute on this. That said, we've grown very fast, right? From 2 founders to over 1,600 people. Normally, human beings are okay to manage within a group of 100 before you need processes. So processes are, of course, something that we've had to introduce. And if you grow so fast, you have the risk of elements starting to go in different directions. So what we are really focused on now is jointness, joint planning, so that be it product, be it the go-to-market, be it the operations team, we not only all have the same vision, we not only have the same objective, but we have actually built the plan together. And so therefore, when it comes to the execution of that plan, there isn't a team going, in the left direction and another team to the right direction. We are all forming the same plan, we all have the same roadmap, and therefore it's easier to deliver at the end of the day.
So that's where you come back to having that 80% kind of strategy that's fixed, and then the 20% flexibility. I had another question about, you said you guys grew really fast. What do you think is what allowed you to expand and scale so fast? Would you say? In 1 year you've expanded to 4 additional markets. Maybe I'm naive, but I think that's quite a lot in a year, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It's scary. Is it working? No, I think what allowed us to expand so fast is the vast opportunity out there. There is more need out there for what we have to offer than we can, almost deliver. And so there is an amazing need to actually go really fast into this. That said, 4 new markets last year. To be absolutely honest, whenever you go into a new market, you have to be really humble. It's not, that you've woken up one day and said, I know everything about Belgium and I know everything about Portugal. No. You go and you have to study. You go and you have to do research. you have to go and test. And a lot of these tests will fail, right? But through the failing, you learn ultimately what works and what doesn't work. There is an element of starting small. Even though your, let's say, core market, France, is massive and already has hundreds of thousands of customers, well, you start with customer number 1 and then customer number 2, right? And you focus on them. So it's not a matter of wherever we go, everything has to work straight away and scale to the same level. You go into it humbly and you say, let's learn a little bit, right? And so if I think about those 4 markets, we've learned that all of these markets are incredibly different. And so we've decided to, whilst we are open in these markets, we are serving our customers, we're taking this very seriously, when it comes to where to, within those 4 markets, go a little bit faster now, we found one of the 4 that we feel has that extra potential to give it that extra little bit of sizzle. And so we focus a little bit more, right? And so then you do it bit by bit. So I guess the opening at scale is a matter of having the ability to learn so that you can then do the scaling part better.
Very interesting. I think you probably have also grown fast because you've also acquired 2 companies, right, in the last 3 years, one in 2022.
And then
Do you want to talk to us a little bit more about your M&A strategy, what you've done and what you're maybe, I mean, you're probably not going to reveal who you're going to acquire next, but, I don't know.
No, I think it's a super important point you're making here because, of course, growing, you don't just have to do it all by yourself, right? There is a general kind of question always, do I build, do I buy, or do I partner? Of course, what is called your hedgehog in the book From Good to Great, so ultimately, what is your core that you built? But when there is opportunity out there to actually go, having a fusion of 2 businesses coming together to make a greater than the 2 parts by themselves, that's when you actually go into the conversations on mergers and acquisitions. So in 2022, we merged with Penta, which was at the time in Germany, one of our competitors, in fact, and really good in the market, with the same type of audience that Qonto is serving. And so there were lots of synergies that we could really make use of by moving these 2 businesses together. 24 in France, understanding the need in particular of the small businesses within this SME space of accounting and pre-accounting, really understanding, okay, I'm moving my money, I do my payments, I do my invoices, but eventually I have to reconcile and do my pre-accounting and work with my accountant. We acquired Regat to ultimately learn, what this space is about, so that under the umbrella of finance management, we can start serving our customers more and more. So what's next to be seen? M&A at the end of the day should be part of any scale-up, because you, of course, have your organic growth path, and then you have your M&A growth path.
And in terms of exit plans?
Exit plans. I think, look, if I think about what's next for Qonto, at the moment, so the first 8 years, we have gone across borders through a payment institution license, which for Europe is a fantastic way to be regulated. We are regulated in France by the ACPR, and the payment institution license offers us to passport into other European markets. We have now grown to a maturity where we want to break into extra areas of, what sits within banking. And so we've applied for a banking license. We are now ready to do that. Really excited because at the end of the day, having a banking license will allow us to go into new product areas that, again, for a small and maybe later on medium-sized customer, be it in financing, in saving, etc., are really important. So exit, I think there is a long way ahead.
It's a long time in the future.
It's a matter of now growing and also including through the banking license, but also financial tooling. There is no end. I've literally just come off a call to discuss what more to do, what better to do to serve our customers also in the financial tooling space. So.
Well, I mean, you need to reach your 2 million first, right? Your 2 million
Indeed.
customers, but you can't do any exits before that. I just want to give the chance to anyone here in the audience. We have only just under a minute left. One question, maybe from the audience, anyone? Just raise your hands, shout. Anyone? Oh, there was going to be more questions, actually. In that case, what I would like to hear from you as a last kind of piece of advice. So one piece of, I know people hate this, like one piece of advice, and maybe I have two pieces of advice. But let's just say, what's like the most important piece of advice that you can give to people who are leading diverse growth teams, who are scaling their businesses? What would be that one thing that you would tell them?
I think plan early on, so know where your vision is, plan early on, and then take those steps towards it. It's as simple as that. Long-term vision, but mini steps.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, Heidrun. Best of luck with reaching your 2 million customers. I'm sure you will. Thank you so much.
Well, all of this is already closer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cheers. Cheers. Bye-bye.